Welcome to Springboard, the Wellspring podcast where we spark real conversations around our work in the community. In this episode, we are joined by Lieutenant Angela McGovern of the Saratoga Springs Police Department and Christy Keegan, Wellspring's Programming Director. A few acronyms that are used in this episode are DV, which stands for Domestic Violence, and DIR, which stands for Domestic Incident Report.
So hi, my name is Christy Keegan. I'm the Programming Director here at Wellspring. Wellspring is a domestic violence and rape crisis agency in Saratoga County. And I am lucky enough to be sitting here with Angela McGovern, Lieutenant Angela McGovern of the Saratoga Springs Police Department, who's going to share some incredibly exciting to me, I think exciting to her as well, new technology that law enforcement is able to use that will help both law enforcement as well as victims of crime. And she's going to demonstrate for us how that works, and I'm anxious to see it and hear about it.
Thanks for having me, Christy. I'm really excited to show you guys how Prepared 911 works. It's a really great app that has been instituted, and the initial platform is actually free. There's no cost for it for any agency to implement this. And then obviously once you integrate the system into your police department, there are elevated platforms that you can purchase for an extra price if they would benefit your agency. But they have a great training demo, so I'm really excited to show you how we can aid people who are domestic violence victims or experiencing abuse in their life, how they can, this is another option for maybe a safe way for them to get in touch with us and get help their way.
This is one of those times when I'm going to say technology is really very cool.
It really is. And we actually have some other really exciting tech things coming our way. We've also got a grant recently for a data analytics program, and we've contracted with one. They're still in the kind of development stages of getting access to all of our data, but even this will be probably really great information for us to work with you guys and maybe see some different domestic violence trends in our city and see what we can do with that evidence and that data to revamp and improve our approach to investigating domestic violence in our city.
Which has come a long way from the spreadsheet I did when I started at the SSPD when I was embedded in the department.
Yeah. We hopefully will not have to see Excel anymore again when we're looking for data.
Oh, I am so impressed. That's wonderful.
So let's start off with showing you this platform. I see you've got your phone there. So we'll just assume that you have called 911 for help, but for whatever reason, maybe someone took the phone from you and disabled the call, or you no longer felt safe communicating over the phone out loud with our agency or with our dispatchers. So you've called 911 and you've hung up on us. So we've got your number now. So one of our dispatchers will take your phone number and they'll create an incident in Prepared. So I'm just sending a text message. It will be a text that you received. And I'm just saying, we've received a 911 call from this number.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Now, it will ask you also to, it might be asking you to let us access your phone camera and your location.
It is.
So did you receive a text that says?
I did.
Okay, what does that say?
Let's see. Live stream starting would allow access to my phone, and I said yes.
Yep. So that we'll never just be able to access your phone without your permission. You'll get an auto link and you will have to agree to let us see your camera. So now I can see in my screen here, I can see your face because you've got the camera facing you, and I can now, the dispatchers can access your phone camera and see what's happening right now. So you can give us a scan of the room. So this might even be good for someone who's witnessing domestic violence and doesn't feel comfortable calling. You can live stream right to us.
This is incredible.
Yeah. So now if you want to go ahead and just end your screen sharing, and I can also show you that we can chat through here. You can send us text messages, and you might even be able to do it even while you're sharing your screen if you go back to the messages.
I'm going to put, yes, I need assistance. Yes, I need help. I'm locked in the bathroom. and scared. This is great. The fact that it's texting and not talking is really, really, really smart.
Yeah, it's a really great way for people to get a hold of us if they don't feel comfortable talking. So now I'm asking you where you are. Now there is also your phone hasn't shared its location, but if someone has that auto set up, I'll see where you are, and we can already have help on the way. A little map would pop up.
Gotcha.
And otherwise, if not, I can send you a request that you allow us access to your location.
Ah, okay.
So now I want you to see if you can send me something in another language if you know it. And if you don't, I can give you a phrase.
Okay.
So we did actually end up paying for an advanced platform because in the summer especially, we see a lot of Spanish-speaking residents or visitors in the city. And we don't have any Spanish-speaking officers, unfortunately. So this has proven really helpful to give us a way to communicate with people. So if you can, try to shoot me a message in another language. It can be any language.
Do you want me to write it or?
Write
yes,
it.
I'm
Yep.
going to. Okay. Ah, that I can. French. Monsieur, vous m'aidez?
All right, so let me get back to that. So if you see here on my screen, it says that you've moved off your web browser, and I can ask you to return so that I can see the video. So basically, you moved from your phone screen to the messages. So now it stopped sharing. So if I needed you to get back on that camera, I could send you another message and ask you to.
Okay, and would I just hit the original link, or would I hit a new link?
I would resend you a link, or
perfect.
I would hit another request and you'd get something.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to send you a message in. So now you should have a message in French, and it says...
Yes, I want to help you. What address should we send the police to?
Yes.
I can read it better than I can.
Yeah.
come up
Yeah.
with the
So, but
vocabulary.
as you
It's
can
been
see
many years.
or explain to everyone, that's in perfect French, right?
It's amazing. Yes. Yes.
I have never spoken French a day in my life. So this is an app that the dispatchers can really utilize to communicate with anyone.
This is brilliant. And actually, I think something like this should be available. I mean, this is better than Google Translate, or sorry, but it is better than Google Translate.
Yep.
This is amazing.
So now, Christy, say you've been in an incident, maybe in your home, and you've been struck in the face, and your eye is already starting to swell, or your nose is bleeding, and you tell me you've sent me that information in this chat. I'm going to ask you to send me a picture of your face, and then I'm going to send you a message to well, it's not letting me. It's not letting me request that you upload, but see if you can upload just any picture from your camera roll into this chat.
It's a picture of my granddaughter's Easter bunny, but
All right. Yep. So now if you look at my screen, Christy, you can
Yep.
see that I've received a media
That's right.
message from you.
That's right.
So now imagine if this is your face, an injury that you've received. It's just something that gives us context in case maybe there's a delay in our response for any reason. Maybe you've called the next day or something. So, the fresh blood that we maybe would have seen has been cleaned up, or it's been a couple hours and you're still scared, but you need to call and you have taken these photos. You can upload them in here and send them to us, and it will just give maybe the district attorney or the investigating officer just more context, and it's more evidence that we have to build a strong case or to help you, be put in a safe place.
Also, if there's property damage, if the house has been trashed, in addition to me, that you're also able to do that.
Exactly. Sometimes a situation has calmed even by the time we get there. So it's really difficult for us to get a context of what really happened in the moment. Maybe, tensions have eased a little bit, and we're seeing people that are smiling and friendly with us and telling us that it wasn't a big deal, but something made somebody call 911. It's not illegal, and we explain to people all the time who maybe aren't happy that they were called on, or someone called 911 because they heard them arguing. It's not illegal to have an argument. We're there to make sure that everyone is safe and that, while you're having these arguments, they're still safe and being done in a way that's constructive to your relationship and that nobody is,
a broken
being
nose,
harmed.
A broken nose is not typically thought of as a healthy relationship.
Exactly.
sign.
And that's a little more than just an argument.
Yeah.
So this is just a really great tool, and we're really excited to get the word out there that we have it. So if you do find yourself in a situation in Saratoga County, because the county actually has this as well, the county sheriff's office is also utilizing Prepared. So they do have this. So if you find yourself in a situation where you feel unsafe speaking to us, make a 911 call, hang up, and we'll get a hold of you. If we have your number saved or we have a good location or an address for that phone number, we will also obviously still have police on the way to check on you. But this is a way that we can get in touch right away and maybe get a little context as to what's being experienced.
Our officers are as excited about this as I am.
I have to say, we've only had like one really, really great success story. A lot of times when we get 911 calls, luckily, they're accidental, which is a great thing. So a lot of times our dispatchers are sending messages and people are responding that it was an accident. Depending on the situation, we'll send an officer anyway, just to check, because anyone can respond that it was accidental. We did have a really great mental health call where the person wasn't, it was a third party call, which means someone else is calling about someone experiencing a crisis. So they didn't have really great information. Our dispatchers were able to contact that person having a crisis through Prepared. And because they were in a crisis, they weren't communicating very well. So the dispatcher got permission to share their video, and they were able to confirm their location. It was not in our jurisdiction, and we were able to send officers immediately to that person and have officers with that agency check on that person. So yeah, that's like one of our best, I think, calls so far that we had. And again, luckily we haven't had to use it too much, which again, I think it's a benefit, but we also want to be ready when the time comes. So it's also really great that there's a training demo and we can get in and play around with it in our downtime.
Yeah.
We have had people send pictures of injuries to us and stuff like that in these messages. And like, we can use it for anything. It doesn't have to be just domestic incidents. Obviously, that's what you guys do. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on today. But even if you get a driving complaint and someone is all over the road, you're following someone into work and someone's all over the road and you're really, really worried oftentimes when we get to a driving complaint, we still have to witness a violation ourselves in order to pull people over. So if you've ever experienced this and you have a police officer show up and they're just following them and you're like, why are you not stopping this car? It's because we need to witness a violation in order to, legally pull this vehicle over unless we get certain information that dictates otherwise. So if it's safe, if you have a passenger in the car, they can jump on the phone, get on Prepared Live and start live streaming the behavior of this vehicle.
This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a really great platform.
Wow.
And I'll have to come back when we have Peregrine, which is the data analytics company, and show you all of the amazing charts and tracking we can do with domestic violence.
Because when I started, I took a year's worth of DIRs. I entered them in Excel. I tracked by address and by location in the city. And when I started, everyone said that all of the DV was coming out of one particular area. That turned out not to be the case. It turned out that it was actually 75% of it was coming from a completely different area, which was a little, but I realized that people remembered the discrepancy. So the bigger ones were coming out of that small area, but the regular calls, people who called frequently, were coming out of a completely different area, and it did change how you responded. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and even, say maybe unfortunately we have someone who is in a new relationship, but we know them as a frequent abuser. We can use Peregrine to kind of track that kind of information, and we'll know where they are, who they're with now. It will link associates. We can instantly see any orders of protection they have, so it could show that they have multiple orders of protection already with other people. And maybe it will be a simple traffic accident that the officer goes to, but it could be just a thing that we use, like, hey, this guy or girl is not someone you want to be in a relationship, and maybe it's not a domestic related incident that is putting us in contact with these people, but it might be a great way for us to warn someone in a new relationship that they might want to rethink who they're associating with.
It also seems to me that for officer safety, because if you're dealing with somebody who is known to go off at the drop of a hat, although most abusers are afraid to do that to law enforcement, but not necessarily, depending on where they are in the context of that relationship. Right. So if they're in the place where the relationship has ended and they're really angry, anybody at that point is a potential target. So it does seem to me like there's safety for the officer too, to know what you're walking into.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, if it's one relationship, maybe we can see that 2 years ago, we were just taking harassments, that maybe they were just shoving each other during an argument. But maybe in the past few months, it's been now criminal mischiefs, and they're breaking stuff in the home and damaging property. We can start to see a trend that way too, that the domestic violence is getting more severe or, more concerning. So it will all be at literally like the click of a button. So I'm really excited for that.
Because it allows you to remind the person who's being victimized, we have been here before. That's not that you shouldn't call, but that we recognize that there is a trend. And have you called Wellspring?
Yeah, and that's another good point that you bring up, because we were talking about this when we met last time. It's interesting to me as a police officer. I oftentimes have victims come in to make a report, and what they're reporting is obviously very important to them. But as I bring them into an interview room and get more context about what led to them, saying, this is it, I'm walking to the police station, or I'm calling an officer to come to my house and take a report, sometimes they'll start revealing other incidents that are so much more extreme than what was kind of their tipping point to get law enforcement involved. And I know we talked about that, if you want to touch on that at all, but that's something that we do see a lot as police officers, where they come in and they're reporting something that maybe isn't even necessarily rise to the level of a crime, but then in going back a little bit, they kind of reveal some other stuff that's been going on, but that's not the stuff that brought them there, was that point that made them like, that's it, I'm getting law enforcement involved.
Very much so. When we started our collaboration, part of, as you know, what we do is we follow up on all the domestic incident reports that you produce, also the sheriff's department, and we call people. And in our conversations with them, we talk to them about the fact that, we try to explain, this is why the officer responded the way they did. What you reported on this DIR does not rise to the level of a crime. Tell me what else is going on in your life. Tell me what else happens between you and this person. Very often, that's the place where we're like, okay, so this is what law enforcement needs to know. They need to know when, and we'll say to people, when they respond, it's helpful. I know it's hard, but it's helpful to try and stay calm so you can explain what's happened at the time. And often those are the basis for an order of protection, as well as an amended report. It may be that at the end of a 7-hour, argument or abusive session, the last thing that happens is the person throws their dinner at the victim. In the first couple of hours, they have broken all the person's stuff. They have thrown things out the window. They have hit them. But it was the dinner that did it. You're right. It's the last thing that stands in your mind. So because of the collaboration and how good you guys have been about explaining to us, okay, it needs to look like this in order for us to respond, it has made it much easier for us to have a conversation with our clients about this is how this works. This is how you need to help the officers help you. So,
yeah. And unfortunately, domestic violence often isn't a singular event. It's a series of events that happen over time. So if it's safe to do so and you find yourself in a situation like this, I recommend highly again, if it's safe to do so, journaling. Take notes, write down dates and times and the things that are happening. If you have to wait and go to work to do so, if you have to do it by texting a friend and then deleting them and literally having a trusted person in your life do the journaling for you so that it's in a safe place, anything that you can think of. But oftentimes we do find people at their lowest point, at their breaking point. They're stressed out. Maybe there's children involved. They're wondering about the next steps. If I leave, how am I going to be able to afford, things? Where am I going to live? They know where I work. So these are all stressful things that you're thinking about. And we can tell that people are not in the right headspace to give us proper statements and proper information so that we can really properly investigate what's been going on. So if you can take detailed notes, take pictures, anything that you can do so that when you are at that point where you can't get your thoughts straight, you'll have it on paper or in some sort of form to guide you through your interview with us.
We actually coach people a lot, and this will be very helpful. Let's try chronological order. Sometimes it takes several hours of talking to someone. We also do petitions for family offense petitions for orders of protection at family court. It's very much the same process. We'll say, okay, so when did this start? What was the first incident? And that's hard for people to remember. So we do exactly the same work. Whether we're talking to them about, we will go with you to law enforcement to help you report. Let's do your homework before we go, so you have something there, as well as the family court. So I'm glad you also say that. Yay!
Yeah. Another question that we get a lot too is, I would imagine, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, that statistically there's more female victims of.
Statistically, yes, there are male victims,
Yes.
but statistically, and it tends to look different for males and females.
Okay. So we obviously, policing is definitely a male-dominated profession. We have a lot of male officers. Proudly, we do have plenty of wonderful female officers within our department as well. But another thing that we will get a lot in domestic incidents or in sexual assaults, which obviously those can often be intertwined with each other, people not feeling comfortable speaking to males. I will say at almost any time you can get a female at our department due to the shift work and the assignments that we currently have. But I do just want to stress that there's nothing that you can't tell one of our male officers that they haven't already heard. We have a great department, very compassionate and empathetic, and anyone I would hope would feel comfortable speaking to any of them. So don't be discouraged if you're trying to report an incident and you have a male officer there. They're very, very talented and skilled, and they're there to listen no matter who they are. But again, we do have many wonderful females. If you're really not comfortable, you can ask our dispatcher specifically for a female officer and we'll get you on.
I think that when it has come up, and I can only think of a few times in my time here, for me personally, it's been around a sexual assault. But I've also had it happen that there was a horrific sexual assault probably 10 or 15 years ago. And the responding officer was male, and the client felt so safe with him that she wouldn't let anybody else in her hospital room that was male. There's no other males allowed, but he was kind of her guardian angel. So mostly I think people respond well. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And we don't usually have like too much difficulty or demand or I guess requests for female officers, but we do see it sort of routinely. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, it's good to know that it's available. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually impressed. Every once in a while I'll see a police car going past me. I'm like, that's a female officer, because I noticed, that's a female officer.
Yeah, when I first started with the department, I think there were 14 of us. That number has dwindled a little bit just due to some retirements, and some of our female officers found new opportunities with other police agencies, some not even within New York State. So, they relocated. So our number is a little lower, but I would like to see it back up there again, because for an 80-person police department, I thought that was quite high, and I was proud of that.
Yeah. And if we want 30%, then if there's 80 people, is that 24? I'm not sure. My math is not
Oh
necessarily
yeah, it's
stellar.
too early in the morning for me to do any mathing.
But I think it's around 24 to be 30%. So that would be, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great stat. So I'm hoping we get up there again. We're not too far, but
that's exciting. I would like to say on my side that the collaboration between us has been invaluable. And one of the things about, I know your officers also know that when they're with somebody, if that person is concerned about all the things we talked about, whether it's housing or whatever, that they will call us often on the victim's phone so that we can talk to them once the officers arrive. And sometimes we're the kind of natural next step. You know, you guys cannot stay there for 2 hours to have the conversation, but we can either get them to safety if need be. We can cab them someplace. We can talk to them about shelter and housing and all of those things. So with your officers' help, we also are often very quickly in touch with people who become our clients. So it's invaluable.
Yeah, it is. I know the number by heart because I've written it on so many. I write it right on the domestic incident report. So they have it. It's your 24-hour number. So if we're encountering you at 3 a.m., you can call that number at 3:01 and someone is going to answer that. That's a really great service that you guys provide. And I'm sure it's very comforting to know that you can talk to someone in the middle of the night. So yeah, 584-8188.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
The number to dial in
literally
Saratoga
do know
County.
it by
Thank
heart.
you.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say too, you guys do so much more than just women's sheltering, which I feel like that's another thing we get all the time is, you know, we'll go to a call and we'll ask someone, hey, have you ever worked with Wellspring, or are you familiar with Wellspring and the services they provide? And sometimes the auto response that we get for someone is, I don't need shelter. And I try to explain that there's so much more that you guys do than just putting someone in a shelter, helping someone create a plan to safely leave a relationship and stuff like that, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, in fact, often one of the first things I'll say to people when I'm talking to some, particularly in a situation like that, is we're not here to separate you from your partner. We're here to talk to you about your safety. That matters more to us than anything. And so that can be safety planning. If some people need to stay in the relationship for a variety of reasons or want to stay in the relationship. And but we want them to know that stepping out occasionally may be the safest thing to do. What is the backup plan? Where do you keep your things packed? Can you come here for counseling just to talk about this? If you cannot come, can we do it on the phone, which is one of the things we do a lot. COVID actually introduced telephone counseling at a different level than we used to do it, and it's actually very, very common. Also, the cost of gas is really, or for people who are not allowed to drive their car. And then we get to talk to them about both our financial literacy program, which changes a lot of women's lives. It is available to anybody in Saratoga County, but only women come to the class. Men can take it individually. Whether it's that or our housing program or any of the wellness programs that we offer, but just the kind of the regular contact. But we really are able to focus with them on no matter what you choose, you already have somebody telling you what to do, so it's not going to be us telling you what else to do, but we're going to give you as many rights and options as you have. This is how we can help you in family court. This is how we can help you with law enforcement. This is how we can help you if there's a criminal court case, following up and working with the DA. So once people hear that we're not invested and they're ending the relationship, we just want them to stay safe, it changes the tenor of the conversation dramatically.
Which is why the DIR calls are also really important. We explain why it went the way it did. Sometimes I'll say, would you like me to call the officer and ask if there's something you didn't understand? And because people don't often listen well when they're in that place.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's hard to pay attention to what's being given to you when you're already full of everything that's going on and your own information. To take on more, I'm sure, is nearly impossible.
Yeah, there's a lot of explaining, but then once we do that, people are so relieved, even for people who are economically disadvantaged, to know that they can come to the well shop and get groceries once a week. For some of them, it's a big deal. So yes.
What I wanted to say is that your confidentiality is also very impressive, even from a law enforcement perspective, because I do remember one time as a patrol officer, I went to a specific call I did a DIR, and something was staying with me about that call, and I was like, I tried to encourage this person to reach out to Wellspring. I really hope they did. I know they're in a situation that I believe is going to worsen and is already very unsafe. And I remember emailing someone from Wellspring, I don't know who, and I kind of just relayed that, like, hey, this case number, can you tell me if they reached out? And the answer I got was very respectfully, no. But I do love that. But they also gave me the reassurance that if you did a report, we have it, and we will be reaching out if we haven't already. And I was like, that makes me feel good enough. But that's another thing is anyone that wants to reach out, you're not going to instantly call us. Everything that they involve law enforcement in is up to them.
And in fact, we say to people when we do presentations, particularly, if you don't want to tell me your name the first time you call, you don't have to. I once saw someone for about it was about 14 months before I learned her real name. And it doesn't matter to me. The dynamics are the same no matter what. So confidentiality for us, because there are myriad ways that people can be compromised. And I was once horrified. We had a client who came, who a number of us worked with. And I knew that there were a number of other people in the community that she had connected with. And I was sitting at lunch with my husband, listening to the couple next to me talk about someone who was clearly her. And I couldn't talk to my husband about it. And I was having this horrible moment.
Yeah.
And I, ran to the parking lot and called the office. Just because what I understood was, okay, I was listening to this, but if her abusive partner had also been in the restaurant, they would have heard it. And there was enough about this person in public. So the reason that we don't even, actually what's interesting is we don't talk to each other about certain things. So if we were to have, let's say, a mother and a daughter come, they would each have their own counselor, and then there's a firewall between those two, so that people really are able to be genuine with us without being worried. And we say to them, the only reason we would, if there's a CPS call to be made, we're mandated reporters, but we would do it with you in the room, at least I do. Or if you say you're going to hurt yourself, then that's a whole conversation and a potential evaluation. Or if you say you're going to hurt someone else, I would have to do something about that. But other than that, we have no investment in gossiping or dishing about anybody. So people can rest assured that when it comes here, it stays here.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because, like I said, I put you guys to the test and you passed without even realizing I was doing it. So
yeah, we have had people get quite angry, particularly family members, because even if someone's over the age of 13, we don't see a lot of teens. But often 16, 17, 18-year-olds may come in, and their parent may bring them in, and their parent then believes that they're entitled to that information. I'm sorry, I can't confirm or deny that I know someone by that name, but there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yep. Yeah. I have a question for you,
Sure.
Christy. Although I'm a police officer and I know how to respond to incidents of domestic violence or any issues within relationships, what can I do as a friend when I'm off duty and I see a relationship I don't like? How do I be a supportive friend but still share my concerns without, I guess, pushing a person away? Like, what are the do's and don'ts of things to say or do?
Usually I say don't use the phrase domestic violence, because most of the time that has such connotations for people. And if this is a relationship, these relationships tend to start with love. They don't start with violence. So there's a lot of conflict that goes into somebody's thinking about, am I going to leave or am I going to stay? But I think it is really reasonable to focus on your friend's behavior. So I notice that you don't seem as happy as you used to be, or I notice we don't get to do things together a lot. And you seem you've lost a lot of weight, things that are noticeable, real behaviors. I'm here if you ever want to talk about it. And I'd say doing that several times, often the person will feel comfortable talking about it. You can say, I notice you're uncomfortable when your partner's around, when it's the three of us. If there's something bothering you, please know that you can talk to me about that. I'm not going to make a judgment about it. I'm here for you. And that's usually the best way to start. It's not easy.
Yeah, I definitely found myself in those awkward moments, and I'm pretty vocal about it because of what I see, and I'm trying to find that balance of when do I need to know my place and how do I be a supportive friend but stay true to what I believe is right, and speaking up when I feel like I need to.
I think if you voice your concern about the person, if they know that you genuinely care about them and that you're there to listen, and you do that a number of times, then at that point you can also offer some of our information. Say, listen, I'm just saying, I noticed some of these red flags. I'm not passing judgment about that, but maybe reading this would be helpful. Or if you're not sure, and this is actually how a lot of our hotline conversations start, if you're not sure, you can call this number. You don't have to give them your name, and ask them what they think. This is what they do. And more than once, we've had some, way more than once. My friend told me to call. They think I'm in an unhealthy relationship, an abusive relationship. I don't really know. Okay, that's a good basis for a conversation.
Yeah.
It's hard. I've done it badly. I did it I did it certainly very badly before I worked here. It's hard when you care about somebody to not go, oh, for Pete's sake. But they already have one person telling them what to do, so I focus on that. It cannot be me to also do that, because they're going to pick the person they love.
That's a really good point.
Darn it. Really am going to thank you so much for both not only doing this and not only kind of the way in which your officers respond to domestic violence and allowing our collaboration, but even having your officer come to the program the other day was, hopefully he will take some of what he learned back. But I think the department's willingness to learn new things serves us and our clients in good stead. And so I'm very, very grateful that you are not a hidebound agency. I think that's the way how I put it.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in being a safe place, and something we really want to focus on is increasing our community engagement and getting everybody to know us, organizations like you guys who we work closely with, and also people that use your services. We want to meet everyone in the community. We have a great community. I love the small town feel that Saratoga Springs is, and we want to be familiar, comforting faces for everyone. Officer Nicholson, who attended your event last week, is one of our community engagement officers.
It was obvious.
Yeah, he's made for that role. I almost hope that he doesn't want to aspire to be anything else because he's perfect for that role.
He really is.
I can tell already that he's going to have a great career here with SSPD.
Well, and in many ways, I think that our mission is to support suppliers and engage the community to end domestic violence. And part of the way that we do that is by working with partners like you. So this seems if have your mission be very much in lockstep with ours is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we can be, familiar faces to people in the community, hopefully that will increase their comfort level when they do need us. But selfishly, I said this recently at a spring event that we hosted. It's just some of these events are just as much for us as they are for the community. We're dealing with people at their worst most of the time. So to give us a break and get to just mingle with everyone and have some fun, it's something that kind of fills our tank. So it keeps us coming back for more years.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wellspring Podcast. Our mission is supporting survivors and engaging the community to end relationship and sexual abuse. Our services are always free and available in Saratoga County, New York. Our 24/7 hotline can be reached at 518-584-8188 or learn more at wellspringcares.org. Be sure to subscribe for the next episode.